Call the meeting to order. The agenda, Oromocto Council and Committee, January 15, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. at the Municipal Building. And 5 p.m. I would need approval of the agenda. Councilor Daw, seconder. Deputy Mayor Mawini, questions? All in favor? Contrary, motion carried. Move down to presentations. We'll start with the RCMP quarterly reports with our sergeant.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I apologize for not being able to make it the last time. Seems like life got ahead of me and got busy with a million things. Even today I spent the day in bed, but I figured since I canceled you guys, I came in. So and I have another meeting at 6 o'clock in Fredericton, so I won't take too much of your time. Sorry?
You have to keep it short so you can get there.
Well, it's fine, you know, they know I'm at a meeting, so it's part of my job to be here, and like I said, I was in bed all day, so I apologize if I sound a little sick. It should be okay, but I know I haven't presented the quarterly report from what I've told you guys the last time. I mean, the new model of the quarterly report is better designed, I find, compared to what it used to be. So I don't really like to go down all the all the sections of it, because I mean, it doesn't show much of what we do. I'd like to talk about some of the stuff that were brought up the last time. The last time was a few months ago. There was some issues in the area of Lincoln on Garden Grove. So it's been dealt with. We had something in the works and it worked out good. So I'm sure your constituents down there are probably
Apparently the house was sold.
yeah, the power was shut down, it was condemned, the people were evicted, and then the house was sold. So we have not been called there for a long time, so it is positive until these people find a new home, new place, but hopefully in Fredericton.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, whichever, I mean, I still cover Burton, so that's
Yeah, Fredericton.
Fredericton would be fine, or the Fredericton part of Lincoln, not that way, just past the Catholic. Yeah, exactly, so like Lincoln Heights would be perfect.
Well, that's good news for that community.
Yeah, I know, there's and like I don't think we could have done it without the public support. Like they were very forthcoming information. They wanted to help despite being scared or being like
And the community is very supportive of you guys and your efforts and everything.
we did it, and sometimes it's hard to get some work done because like we need to have the information, we need to be able to act on it. Like I don't even have the exact numbers of like how many times we've been to the house, but it is a very high number, the number of times that we've arrested individuals, that we've recovered stolen property. But hopefully that's the end of it, because I know on your side, that was the place where there was a lot more calls, probably in the area. And also, so that's one thing that's been dealt with. The rest, like we're doing good manpower wise, like honestly, as best as we've done in years. So we're hoping to be able to get some more proactive work done. On the aspect of the proactive work, you may or may not be aware, there was a change in legislation for the impaired driving stuff that came into effect January 1st. So in short, impaired driving is what takes, that basically it ties up courts for years. Let's say if somebody is arrested for impaired driving, is released on a court date, let's say they're arrested tonight, they'll be released for a court date in March or April, there's a few adjournments, and then trial is scheduled basically the first week of 2027. That's what the courts are. So with the new legislation, we have a choice to go on a provincial license suspension. So what it means is that if I pull over a vehicle, the person blows in the roadside screening device, blows over the limit, they are suspended right away, the same way they would if they were found guilty in court 2 years down the road. So they can blow one sample, they're allowed to blow a second time, and if they blow over the limit twice, their license is suspended for 3 months. And then it goes to the motor vehicle registrar, and then there's gonna be more consequences. The license will be suspended for a year, there's gonna be reinstatement fees, they have to go through a driver's ed course again. So the process that used to take 2 hours, like two years basically by the time court was done, now takes about half an hour. So, for example, we have a member, a newly transferred member, he's using the traffic and he was at Dooley's last weekend on Friday. He caught 3 7-day suspension and 1 3-month suspension of patrons leaving the bar. So it's easier because he doesn't need another member. So when we brought over somebody to do a breath test, it took a second member to be the breath technician, then you have to do all the paperwork for court. And then it goes on for a year and a half, 2 years. Now it's all done. There's no appeal for them if the 2 tests were done properly. So it makes it easier for us to process those. So I'm hoping we can get more and more of those because as you know, it's definitely an issue, the impaired driving in the area. So like just encourage everybody, like you have suspicion that somebody is driving drunk or is leaving somewhere and smell liquor from them or you've seen them drink, make sure to let us know. It's something that we definitely want. That being said, we can still go with the court's process. If there's an accident, if somebody's injured or something like that, we can still go with the court system because they can get harsher punishment as well. So it was done by the province to kind of take some stress off the courts. So that's something that's very important. The one thing I want to bring up, heavy theft or theft of vehicles, theft from vehicles, we seem to be doing pretty good. I mean, there's always some that happens. In the winter, it's probably not as bad. You've probably seen in the social media. I think we had a news release about a stolen vehicle at the school on Friday that was doing donuts and stuff like that. So we wanted to get a news release out. We tried it on Friday, they couldn't do it, so that's why it came in on Monday. But stolen vehicle, person was doing donuts on school property while the kids were outside. We need to go in. So that was very dangerous. Sometimes we're criticized for our response because we know we can't really pursue people for what's the property crime, basically a stolen vehicle, and knowing that they're at school, like that's why you've seen the video where a police car is following. We're trying to get them flushed away from school. The person was identified from driving by our member, so we knew who it was, and then the vehicle was recovered. That person was arrested, and the courts will deal with the rest. But like I said, we're here when there's something going on, like we want to make sure, but sometimes we have our own limitation. But I mean, at the end of the day, everything was done well, done properly. Everybody was kept safe as much as we could, because you know how it is. The more we chase those people, like that's a thrill they get. So chances are that person was probably recording it as well. So if nobody's chasing them, it's boring for them. So that's why we kind of just let them go. I don't know if there's anything else.
Was he a student or?
No, well, she.
Oh, it's a she.
We haven't released name and ID, but it is a 15 or 16-year-old
No
female.
way. Quick. Oh my God.
Yeah, so not typically somebody who's in trouble with us, but I mean, so people start, I'm sure you would know that person from school. Yep. So,
You're kidding.
but it was somebody that we knew, so at least that made.
And there was a stolen vehicle?
Yeah, that was a stolen vehicle from, it was reported a half an hour or an hour before.
Really?
It was stolen from Oromocto itself, and then just doing donuts around. So at least vehicle was recovered and the person was arrested. So
We're coming to.
I don't know if you guys have any questions for me or anything you wanted to talk about. And by the way, like, I don't care if I have another meeting after. If you keep me here for an hour with questions, I will answer your question. It was overdue me being here, so I wanted to make sure I'm available for concerns and.
Yeah, well, I just have a couple. But it's about the murders down on the reserve.
Okay.
And the first one was a murder crime apparently,
Yeah.
but the second one where the body was found behind the
Sobeys warehouse.
warehouse.
Yeah. So, well, the first one was confirmed to be a murder, so second degree murder charges were laid, so it's going in front of the court, so this one is. I mean, obviously, major crime is handling that, but it is confirmed to be a murder. The second one you're referring to is a person who was missing for a few days. We had the helicopter out, we were trying to find that person, and the body was located behind Sobeys warehouse. After autopsy and everything, it was ruled that it was not a suspicious death. I'm not gonna talk much about the
Yeah, we don't wanna get to detail.
yeah, and I know there's been rumors around, like family were saying, oh. Like that person got murdered, but from what the pathologist said, from what we've seen on the body. We do not believe that it was a suspicious death at all. It was some self-inflicted, but it was not suspicious. We don't believe that there was anybody else who was involved in it, so. So that's so that means the one on the reserve was the only murder we had, so.
Any questions or comments, council?
Is there anything in your respective wards that like your citizens have made you aware of like any issues or? Anything, like I know, sometimes I might not be aware, but.
Thank you, Richard. I guess not, just, I've had a comment, I guess, springtime is coming soon, and so our four-wheelers will be out.
Mhm.
So that's always a comment that I give in my ward, so I put it on walking trail.
Yes, I think you mentioned that, so we in the fall, we had a project with Justice and Public Safety.
It's been better.
In that we had, I think they had towed a couple bikes and we had told another bike afterwards, a repeat offender, the young offender. Who, I guess with the system, like we can't really, like we charge him provincially under Off-Road Vehicle Act, but we can't really charge him with much more. Going to diversion, so we, for one of those particular kids that you probably will know from school, he's gone through a restorative justice program where it was basically focused on off-road vehicle safety and regulations and all that. Whether or not it's gonna help, we'll see, but I was part of that process, so hopefully that works. Comes the spring, we'll definitely make sure to get another project going. The off-road vehicle enforcement is always willing to come and help us for sure, so
Thank you.
no problem.
On that note, on the railway bridge, when it was burnt and it was closed, did they have permission to go on the highway?
There was somebody, I think I've seen a note from Justice Public Safety saying they were allowed. It's always bearing on the fact that they are responsible and cautious about it, but as much as I do that.
Okay,
Doesn't really happen, but yeah, there was something that was noticed that was sent.
it's two dudes cut up in front of me. I was coming from Lincoln and they come out of the Wasson Road and cut right in and headed across the bridge, just smoking her. And I said,
Yeah.
holy smoke. But
Yeah, no, there was
So I was wondering if they
there was
had-
something
okay.
out for them, so,
Yeah.
cause I don't think otherwise the detour would have been, I guess, impossible for them, so.
you know, it's that.
I don't even know where they would have had to go across it.
Well, they would have to get their trailer, bike trailer and trailer.
Yeah,
What they're
Exactly,
supposed to do. Yeah, anyway.
exactly. Anything else, like I said, whatever issues you may have, and if it's something that you don't really feel like discussing in front of council and everybody else. You can always send me a message, like I'm very responsive to messages and I know Jillian and she sent me several messages about issues to Jackson as well, so if you have any issues, let me know. Sometimes we assume, well, police knows the area, knows the issue, but sometimes we don't. Or like I review a lot of the files, but I might miss some of them, so I might not be aware of everything, or sometimes it might not be police matter per se, but if there's anything we can do to help to make everybody feel better, then if we do it, so.
And anniversary. Knock on wood, it's been.
Yeah, and then when spring comes, I know we're always gonna have issues at the parks and stuff, so that'll be for my next presentation, but we'll have something in the summer as well. And we can talk about those issues as well towards, I guess probably like April and May when it starts getting nicer, but
No, exactly.
it's always the same issues every year, we'll deal with those.
Yeah. So any other questions or comments, council?
Feel free.
That's great.
Ron, thank you for having me, and sorry again for last time.
No,
We'll begin in a couple of months or something like
that
that.
would be perfect.
We'll have a chat.
We just don't want you to be late and be speeding, caught speeding on the time.
Well, I don't know. I may have to slash the badge. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. Oh, he's a good guy. Okay, where am I to? The next one, we have a report for the period of first, oh no. No, we done that, he did that, okay, we're going to go to meaningful connections. And it's Katrina's gonna handle that.
Yes, good evening. My name is Katharina Burns and I'm genuinely very excited to be here tonight to present to you what's become my baby and my project I'm very passionate about. In 2019, Jackie and Bill and I worked very hard on the beginning stages of Meaningful Connections. I had something prepared, but I feel like a little context is helpful. And as you know, we were, as Jackie might know, we were actually ready to open when COVID started and we had to halt and stop. So I went back to school during COVID and became a registered nurse, and I felt like that was a meaningful stepping stone during that challenging time to then come back to this project and be able to more comprehensively bring it to the town. So, Meaningful Connections is an adult day center that is designed to help seniors remain in their home for as long as possible. So the umbrella signifies the joy of a new beginning, commitment, sharing, and most importantly, unconditional love. The joy of a new beginning where a caregiver realizes there are resources available to lighten the caregiver role. A new commitment can be made to the caregiver's self, to be their best self, to be the healthiest them possible in this time, in this moment. Commitment is also what the center is making to the caregiver and client. We commit to a safe, engaging, client-centered, meaningful engagement to help them invest their time with us rather than spend it. We strive to share their hopes and their dreams left unfulfilled and want to explore what this might look like, and we want to share the load of caring. So currently, I'll just kind of give you an overview because this conversation is me coming to you with a request for funding, and you probably hear that all too often. So currently, we are within the St. Vincent de Paul Church Hall, and I would assume you might have all received a request for funding and had a peek at that. Just to recap, so we are in the St. Vincent de Paul Church Hall. It's a wonderful space. They've been very generous and we're very appreciative. It's accessible for walkers and wheelchairs. It has many upgrades. The issue is consistency and continuity. When there's a church function or a funeral, respectfully so, we are displaced. And we knew this would happen from the get-go. And we have been making it work, but it's very challenging when you look at the clientele we're serving. So we're serving those with cognitive impairments that need foremost they need structure and routine. That's what makes their day-to-day life function at the highest quality possible. So what's happening when we are displaced? It causes quite a bit of irritation and confusion. And at times we've seen aggression and someone can become combative. So that's a challenging situation just because I don't know where I am. Why am I here? This isn't familiar to me. I feel lost. I don't know what to do with these emotions. So I might strike out and hit you. And so these are some of the things that our staff and our volunteers are kind of experiencing because of displacement. And this is simply a reaction to something that really could be mitigated if we just had a consistent space. So with that in mind, stop me at any time. I'll just tell you a little bit more about myself. I moved to New Brunswick in 2011 as a personal support worker, lived in Gagetown, and then moved to Oromocto 2 years later, and have been in the healthcare sector now since 2011. I have one 12-year-old daughter. She's perfect in my eyes. Keely, and she's very invested and attends the center quite a bit and helps me bring a bit of that intergenerational component. My partner has been a full-time firefighter for, I want to say 23 years. He may or may not correct me. He's also very involved in the center, assisting with drives and coming and sitting down and having coffee with some of the gentlemen that might want to have a conversation with a young man. We have 2 dogs, and we pride ourselves in adopting from the SPCA and working with Elder Dog in our most recent edition. So on the table, excuse me, before you, you have the same brochure as is placed there, and you can see the space there, and that's typically how it's laid out. Because on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have 14 attendees. So as you can imagine, that can become quite chaotic. Maybe it's timing out. It can become quite chaotic. But we do have quite an extensive load of parameters we have to follow in terms of social development, the standards we have to upkeep. So the space itself needs to be obviously spatial and bright, and we have to have an area for rest, accessibility, and the restrooms. And right now we have a nice big kitchen. And you might think, well, that's not really necessary. But when you have 14 people, you have multiple volunteers, you have staff, it is necessary because everyone is eating and drinking through the day. And all these participants bring their lunch to the center every day. And we often host breakfasts, we host different events that make that kitchen very functional. So again, we're at the St. Vincent de Paul Church Hall. Going the wrong way. So just a little bit on here, I thought it was really important to bring to your attention our vision. So through continuity of care and community support, it is our vision for older adults with dementia to remain in their homes for as long as possible with a sense of independence and belonging. And that's not something I slapped on there to impress you. That's my general vision. That is something that is very close to my heart. My parents are aging every day. I'm far from them. So I wish only the best for them and that they could remain on the farm in their home forever, as long as safely possible. So I strive to provide that for the clients that I have the pleasure and privilege of caring for. And I take it very seriously. They're not just words to me, it truly is what I first see and what I want to accomplish. I want to leave this space a better place than I found it. So we are committed to providing meaningful engagement in a stimulating environment that enhances quality of life for persons with dementia while decreasing rates of caregiver burnout, unnecessary hospitalization, and premature long-term care placement. So we often see our clientele going to the hospital for something that maybe could have been addressed at home. And all too often, they're in hospital for way too long. And I find myself advocating fiercely for them to get them discharged because our older population is being left in hospital for way too long, and they become that forgotten patient. They end up with bed sores. They end up with hospital-acquired pneumonia. I know someone right now in that exact situation because they get left, because they don't advocate as much as someone maybe a little bit younger would. So our goal is to keep them out of there in the first place and have support in the community and work with local physicians and extramural to keep them healthy and strong within their home. I'll figure this out by the end. So we provide service throughout Monday through Friday from the hours of 9 to 3, and we provide a monthly calendar where we provide engaging entertainment and activities. We try to bring in all facets of health, all domains of health. We bring in music, we bring in pet therapy, we bring in intergenerational. We do a lot of collaboration with entities in the community. We collaborate with the local high school. I'm not touching that. And we just like to help them feel like they're still within the community. It's not that they're in a facility. It's not like a residential facility, as in a special care home. This is still within your community. You're just attending a program, and we try to make it feel as normal as possible. I bring my dog quite a bit to work, which is good for me and for them. And we just kind of go out of our way, above and beyond, if I say so myself, to try to make their time with us meaningful and have them connect with those around them. And we've learned that there really is a sense of camaraderie, because when one is missing, because they're out sick or they have an appointment, they're like, oh, so-and-so, and they're concerned, they're genuinely concerned. And there's tears shed when someone passes away or they do have to go to long-term care, because they know to a degree that they're all on a similar journey. So we try to make it meaningful. We provide all the services that you might have at home, but you might need to take your level 1 2 at the center. So we bring in a licensed hair professional to do hair every 4 weeks, which allows them to have it done at the convenience of the hours of the center. You're not dragging anyone to an appointment. To maybe have a hairdresser that doesn't understand dementia provide care, or becomes irritated or annoyed that they're not maybe behaving in a way that they see acceptable. So we bring her in every 4 weeks, and she charges them $15. It's very cheap, very affordable, and she's actually come several times and charged nothing. And so we pride ourselves on that. We provide foot care. She's a licensed practical nurse. She comes in and she provides foot care every 6 weeks to all of our clients that are interested. So again, they don't have to go anywhere outside of their home. They can have it right then and there during our days of operation. And she does direct billing. And this also helps mitigate any sort of, let's say, for example, dementia, diabetic related concerns that they may have, ulcers, or maybe even later down the road foot amputations due to poor foot care. We are mitigating all those types of things and doing teaching as well at the same time. And she's very competitive with price as well. Pet therapy, I mentioned that. We have a good relationship with River Valley Obedience. They come every Friday, and they asked us actually if they could bring a secondary team because everyone responded so well. So we're really excited to bring that on. So we're going to start that, but as you can see, it's nothing but smiles all around, and it's just, you're setting the day up for success for sure. So our intergenerational activities. So on the far left, we had our 1-year celebration and brought in some exotic animals that everyone was way too willing to engage with. And we have, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. We have a young mom that comes every couple of weeks with her sons that she homeschools. They bake, they do different activities with us. And then on the far right, that's a picture of one of our clients with an OHS leadership students. They were doing some pancakes using the kitchen there. And this is just some of the community engagement that we've done. So on the far left, that's Eastern College coming in to do their monthly massages for anyone at the center interested. They're back tomorrow. So they do a half-an-hour session for all of our clients, for all the staff, all the volunteers. We invite the families, and they come and do it for free. We do a caregiver support group meeting for all of the caregivers that are interested. And it's not a session where we sit and complain and hate on life. It's about supporting each other, bringing a speaker in to lift each other up and really kind of support the journey. And then moving on, we did a flu shot in October. So we partnered with UNB and the Oromocto, I never say it right, the health clinic on 225 Mitchell Street. Partnered with them and put on a flu shot clinic for the community. We had about 37 people come through. So I was happy with that for our first clinic, because we're still trying to get our name out there, and maybe people are sometimes more comfortable going to their physician's office or to the pharmacy, and I understand that. So that was a good turnout, no incidents. And then I'm looking on the far right, it's a picture of our breakfast program that we did. We did 4. The library used to put them on, so we tried 4 months, and the intention was to get our name out there, to draw the public in, to raise awareness. And the first month or so, it was pretty good, but it kind of petered off, and I don't know whether it was timing, but I felt like it was maybe not right for us. And then at the bottom on your far left, that is a UNB nursing student and one of our clients over at the food bank. So we spent a day there and we helped sort and package products to go out to families in need, which is really eye-opening for myself and for everyone in our team. And then on the far right is a UNB student administrative flu shot. So that's a little bit about what we do. And really that's the gist of my presentation. I welcome any questions and think that, did you want me to go over any specifics in terms of the ask?
From my perspective, your worship, I don't, but certainly if council has questions on the ask, now is the time with the subject matter expert in the room.
Councilor Duff?
Thank you, Richard. So is it my understanding that the ask is for a year?
Yes, it is. So
Just a
we,
year, and then you're hoping to be
yes.
with the grants and everything moving on from there?
Yes, and I'm okay to be transparent as well, that the group from PEI that's building the new home has approached us to be within their second phase. So we're supposed to be moving into their second phase build, and we're very excited about that, but that's not till 2026. So it's a bit of time yet. So yes, for a year, because I suspect as the weather gets warmer, there will be more funerals and we will be displaced more. That sounds awful.
And just another note, nice presentation.
Thank you.
I know a couple of the clients and the caregivers. And I can tell you that one of them is extremely pleased that we have this in the town. When she moved here, she didn't know what she was going to do. And she said it's the break that she definitely needs. And the activities and the person, I won't say he or she, the person, yeah, it's definitely needed.
I appreciate that a lot.
Did you have any other questions to come? Now, how much, what were you're looking to rent a new spot, is that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so we viewed several spaces in the town, and as you know, it seems to be that there's nothing available and then there's tons available. So with the square footage that we need, at least 1,000 square feet and a bit of a kitchenette and accessible bathrooms, we're looking at least 1,000 square feet. The need is unique, so I went and I looked at the space Linda Foss has. She's about $2,475. This space being built here in the massage therapy building, she's $2,500 plus tax. The Chivery space is $1,475 plus HST. And they said, just go ahead and put a kitchenette in. So the cost for rent is astronomical, and then there's always still a need to add additional things to make it functional.
And it's only temporary if you're hoping to get in 2026, so
Yes.
You wanna look at,
Exactly, so we're looking at really partnering with someone that it makes sense for a year. And we're not making all kinds of alterations. I have had other businesses such as Pivot Boxing that we collaborate with quite a bit. And say, what if we got a space together because they need it at night and we need it during the day. We've looked at partnering with our book care nurse who has her own space. She's just currently committed to something, but is interested in partnering. So some of these contracts just need to see their term out, and then there is opportunity to connect and collaborate. So currently, like since I put that proposal in, we've actually had 4 more clients come forward. So we're looking at 20 now. And the numbers are gonna only continue to increase as the word continues to get out. And we have actually our own signage, because some people have no idea. St. Vincent de Paul Church Hall is, I didn't even know it was there, so hidden. I didn't, but so as we get signage out, more people will be aware and more people will come there. I know they're out there, there's so many people out there.
I know.
Check, right, your worship, will you set a limit to how many clients that you'll be able to accept?
So this was something I pondered a lot today. We had a really busy day today, so. In terms of social development, the ratio is 1 staff to 12 clients. Which is ridiculous. It is not doable, I can tell you that right now. So currently we have 2 staff and typically have 2 or 3 volunteers on, and it's not enough. So we're always recruiting. So to answer your question, we went to social development and said, the need is there. Can we increase the ability to offer more spaces? Because people will say, well, I only want to come Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So if you don't allow them to come on the days that work for them, then the program doesn't work for them. So we're learning we have to be much more flexible, which is okay. So there's preferential days. And so we have said yes to having more people, but this is also coming or with a request to social development requesting funding for a secondary staff and to open 7 days a week. And that's the secondary issue that we have with our space, is that we cannot be there on Saturday and Sunday, respectfully so they can use it after church and for weddings and showers and stuff. So I think that we'll be able to kind of bring our numbers to a more of an even keel as we open 7 days a week. So the answer currently and right in the near future, no, providing that we get that second staff. But if we don't, we will have to depend on increased volunteer support. And if we don't have that, then we will have to.
Councilor Dunn.
thank you, Richard. Is typically, most places 7 day, offering 7 days?
So honestly, so between us, we're the only adult day center between here, St. John, Miramichi, and your care center in Fredericton. They all operate 5 days.
That's what I thought.
Yes, I did some research in Ontario, and there was some that offered 7 days a week, and they also offered night respite. So we want to be competitive, we want to do more, because I know I love going to Costco and doing extra things on the weekend. So if I know I can take my loved ones somewhere and I can go and enjoy that, then.
And that's something that when you get into
Our own space, yes.
the permanent place,
Yes.
in 2026, you'll be able to do that.
Absolutely.
So you're looking to have something bridging to continue doing what
Yes.
you're doing.
Yes.
And offering that service that's much
Yes.
needed.
What's happening now and why we're seeing that, and we have the desires, because we have families come to us all the time and say, do you know anyone that come and stay with dad on the weekend? We're going here, we're going there. So I don't always take that, because I am doing a lot of administrative work out of the working hours. So my staff often takes that time on the weekend away from their family and is again still sitting with clients. And so coming back on Monday, not rested, not rejuvenated. So we're saying, if we can add the weekend at the center, bring in different staff, you can actually rest.
Just one further question, only because I know St. Vincent de Paul
Mhm.
at the back of my hand. would it not? Could you possibly extend your stay there until the place is ready?
I think that we could, but the issue is the consistency. It's a matter of being.
Is there quite
explained.
a lot of disturbance?
It is quite a bit, it is, it's not consistent though, it's as
No.
someone passes and the family. Have a reception. It's just a function, without being rude or inconsiderate, I had a call 2 weeks ago on the weekend, we're out and about, and the call was, you can't be there on this day. And it's Saturday, and you're kind of thinking, is this a fire I need to deal with right now? And so I said, well, what's it for? Well, they're having a birthday party on Friday, so we're being kicked out all day. So you kind of start to feel like, ugh, do I push back?
And Easter, I know, I use the facility every Wednesday there for 20 years.
Okay,
And you're right, Easter, there's times, but that's when we did our outdoor activities. So
Right.
you work around that because it's
Right.
free.
right,
Let's be honest, it's free. So, looking at your clients, not telling you how to run your business, but looking at your clients, looking at the availability of space in the town, which isn't great when it's free,
Mhm.
and looking at what you have down the road, to get by for maybe another 12 to 15, 18 months.
Mhm.
I know you have to weigh that, but
For sure.
challenging.
Yes. Yes, and that's why I think with the context, it's important to understand why the ask is there. I know my staff can't continue to support families outside of working hours. Or she'll face burnout herself. But if we have a space that can add those extra 2 days, that would be helpful. And just that genuine consistency is ideal, but I do appreciate, we are a young business and we are trying to be patient. So I respectfully understand that if at this time it's not a possibility, I understand. If, I will just say, and I didn't put it in my notes, but I mentioned it to the CAO, we did have a cardiac event the end of November where a young man tragically did die in the space. We used the defibrillator and fire was there very quickly. I had 10 nursing students on staff. I was there myself and he did not survive. It was a horrible experience. So I think wherever we do land, that's an additional cost that we have to consider and we have to have on site. It's something you kind of take, it's there, but it's not until you physically use it that you really consider how important it is. And so that's another thing we're thinking about when we move to a permanent home, we need to think about those extremely important purchases and they're running at least $5,000 to $6,000. We know that for sure. And then keeping in mind that those pads are costly to replace as well.
So the permanent home you're referring to is this temporary one or the nursing home that's coming
Wherever we end up,
in
yes,
the meantime?
yes. And honestly, the conversation with the PEI group is further to the extent that they want to acquire meaningful connections. I don't feel that we're ready to give it up because I think it would change it completely because it's my vision, not a bigger corporate.
That's totally different then.
Right,
I thought
so.
I thought you implied you would be going in the space. and
Yes.
Working there.
Yes.
They want to incorporate you into their facility.
Yes, that is correct, but they are interested in acquiring it themselves, to own and run themselves. But I believe that if we had our own space and could be successful on our own feet, it may be beneficial to remain a separate entity. As much as they want to have a campus feel, I feel like we are more community oriented. I'm not necessarily 100% committed to such a facility oriented vibe, if that makes sense. But
Yes, it does.
respectfully, if that is what's before us on the table, that's certainly what we'll do. But if I had my choice, it would be to remain in the community separate from others. But that's just my preference.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Karen? I don't know that this helps answer any questions, but, and I don't know that the locations are good, but there are two churches in the Lincoln ward as well, that, you know, Baptist church is often very open to community
Okay.
groups. but they're also fairly active. So I don't know that during the day, they're always, you may run into the same type of issues, and then the Catholic Church at the other end of Lincoln. Less busy than Oromocto's Catholic Church, but also with a large space in the basement.
Okay,
So I don't know the details of it, I don't know the availability, but, and the kitchen, yes. Again, I don't know that it would fix the problem, you may run into the same thing with funerals and things like that, but, and I know it's not as central, but just something to consider.
I
If you hadn't heard of
Yes.
or looked in that area,
Yeah.
it would still fall within our boundaries, so maybe if there's aid coming, that still puts you in the community, but there's some good.
I appreciate that.
I can give you some email.
Yes, I like that.
I know. Any other questions or comments, council? I've been invited to a few events there and it's quite something to see the look and the smiles on these people's faces because I've dealt with my mother with the dementia and my mother-in-law now is going through it. And anything that brighten up their day, it makes you feel good to tell you that. So,
I appreciate you sharing that.
right. Well, thanks, Katrina. What we're gonna do is we'll discuss that in closed and see what we come up with. And in some ways, we might be able to help you.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate your time genuinely. And we're there. So if any of you ever feel like you'd like to come in, meet the gang or do anything with us, we love to collaborate, especially with the schools.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say hi to Joey. Now to administration, we'll start with 4A, the new employee orientation policy.
Thanks, your worship. Yeah, just, we're just putting this one back out. It was getting a little bit old. We have some new software programs to which we've been able to start orientation, and streamline it a little bit. So this is really just to reflect some of those processes that we now have built. And so if there's any questions to the policy itself, we're glad to talk about. Otherwise, we're just looking to get the nod so we can update this and bring it the new decade. So because when it comes to technology, being a decade old is pretty dusty.
Now, is there any kickback from the employee?
No, I mean, realistically, because this one's predominantly about when you're coming on board, you're being orientated. So we just tested it with our most recent hire here. And so some of the big advantages are twofold. One is that you don't have to try to keep printed materials that may or may not be the right version anymore, because they'll be automatically updated. And the other advantage is we send it to you prior to your start date, and you're to go through the materials prior to your first day at work. And then once you read them, you click the button saying you've read and understand, and then that's logged for our records. So it helps to, instead of bringing someone in on day one and slapping them with a 4-inch binder and saying you have to read this over the next 3 days, that work is already done. So it gets our employees on the ground running quicker, and so that's helpful as well. So yeah, so far so good.
Any questions or comments, council? Okay, we'll move on to 4B, and that's the bench donation for the cenotaph.
Yeah, and so that one, I believe Jackie was gonna tell us more about that, and ran out into the hall. I'm not sure where she went, but
She's talking.
right. So I certainly, in the meantime, can kind of go down through it, but essentially, hopefully everybody kind of had a quick read in terms of, there was a a high school student who came up with a project for involvement in the community in terms of you know, trying and I guess their project was to create a space and a bench. And Jackie, I'm just taking over until you could get back.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What was yours?
My apology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's questions, comments, I know you've been in direct touch with the student.
Yes. I don't know what we've covered, but is there any questions on this?
Just the background.
Yes, so he reached out to Lori actually before Christmas there with his ask. So it's part of his program. He's looking at making this bench. He thought that the cenotaph location would be a good spot. He suggests a plaque, either acknowledging Brent, who's the gentleman who's always down there. The veterans are there. And he thought it might be a spot during the Remembrance Day ceremony if someone needs to have a seat and have a rest. And I think that would cover most of the items that he's kind of sent along to us.
And so this one's a little bit different in terms of staff hasn't necessarily picked a particular recommendation, although some of the questions that we bring up, we would need to answer because our experience has been that like things on you know, upkeep and maintenance and all those things that we need to make sure we address so that we don't create a level of expectation that either we didn't mean to or don't want to keep. But certainly it's just trying to go through those list of questions with council to ensure that we give the most appropriate direction in whatever the direction council wants to take.
Councilor, your engineer numbers.
Hey, Richard, read through it, I love the idea and concept, and obviously there's answers questions. My first thing was design wise, is that, do we have an idea of what it would look like, what images are on it, and there's issues around using images like coffee or things like that. I just would like to know a little bit more visual of what it might look like.
Yeah, we can certainly ask him for that.
Sure.
My understanding though is they'll just create the cast iron and then just put wood slabs.
Kind of a standard,
Like
welded up.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
And just, yeah.
I just wondered if it was a CNC panel or if it was kind of like.
No, that's my understanding.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, however, if there's something beyond that, I can certainly ask for a mock-up from Mr. Keith to see, for approval beforehand.
Sure, yes. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Richard. Similarly, I love the idea. The whole point in this program is because I'm aware of the program this year. It's part of the essential skills program where they pick like a capstone project for which they can, you know, make something practical that they can either use or give or donate to the community and so on. So I love the idea. I love the fact that it's thought of to have something for veterans and for those who want to honor veterans to be near the cenotaph. The one thing I do wonder is I know we have what we as a town feel would be a good location for a bench. I wonder what is the consultation process that either the young man would do or we would do on his behalf to maybe facilitate a conversation with the Legion. To maybe say is, I mean, this is just me, I'm just trying to think outside the box, like in that placement. I'm looking across the street at the apartment. I'm wondering if up a bit closer, so that it's actually facing onto the cenotaph, may make more sense. But that's just me playing whack-a-mole, like I don't know. So I'm wondering if maybe doing some consultation with someone who would have a little bit more of a vestment in it may make sense. And I'm okay with whichever placement is determined to be the best.
Deputy Mayor, it was on my radar actually to reach out once we had a decision with council on this before we placed anything to check with the Legion. On location, but more so to make sure it would not impede in how they normally set up for their events of that day.
Lovely, thank you.
Councilor Dodd?
Thank you, Richard. I'm going down to the second last line where it either acknowledges Brent, the gentleman who takes care of the area around the cenotaph, or commemorating veterans. I know in the past that we've been very careful of the things that we've done like that, and whether this gentleman, Brent, wishes to have something to acknowledge or not. It seems to me in the past, he's always been very private about what he has been doing, so if that needs to be addressed separately.
Certainly, Council, that was just something that Mr. Keith had mentioned in his email to us, which is why I kind of included it there, but definitely I know that his worship has spoken to Brent before, who wishes to just take care of that area on his own and doesn't feel he wants to have the access
Exactly.
towards him.
Which is what I
And we
brought
would definitely check with him beforehand if that's the will of council to do it towards Brent. Or if council would prefer the commemoration to go towards the veterans, in which case we would work with the Legion on the wording for how to leave it like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just say further to that, I mean, while I absolute no disrespect to Brent, but typically I would recommend you go with a more generic versus a person, because we all know that there are cases out there that come back to be things that perhaps politically you don't want to deal with. And so the more generic thanking of veterans is probably one that's more safe or appropriate in this case. However, it's not specifically for me to decide if council suggests otherwise.
Council Dow?
Thank you. And that's exactly what I was thinking, the spin-off from this, even though the intent is to thank the gentleman for what he has done, because it certainly is all year long. He's even down there when the snow's there breaking.
Breaking it in the snow, yeah.
Yeah, but the spin-off, we start with one, what it could bring up. And we know we've dealt with that at the wetlands already, so.
Anyone else has a comment or? I'm just worried about the wooden part of it. Because it could be lit on fire. Or it could rot eventually.
Yeah, so your worship, that goes to the maintenance and associated costs that go with it, and that's something certainly that needs to be discussed, so that if you were prepared to say yes, we have a conversation with the group so that they know if it gets vandalized, if it does degrade and nobody wants to repair it, that we're simply going to remove it. That would generally be the level of understanding that we would want to make, because it's to your point, this is a great initiative, but if on the second evening the bench is placed, it's vandalized, somebody's going to be expected to clean it up. And if that's us and that's your wish, then we will ensure our staff does it. But we do want to make it known that, then that comes with a bit of making sure that we understand that, so that we either work to clean it up, it gets built into somebody's day, time, materials, or what's the responsibility when it comes to those sorts of things. I love gifts and it's a great idea, but it's the gift that sometimes keeps on giving for reasons that we need to consider.
But it is a really generous and touching honor for this young man to do this. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Worship. I sometimes think that sometimes good ideas don't have to be ones that we come up with ourselves. If this had not come as a ask from a high school student, and it had simply come from our CAO to say, there has been requests from community members to say that they would love to have a place to sit when they go down and they reflect and so on, I would have been the first to say, yes, I think that's a great idea and I think it's something we should support. So the idea that there could be potential vandalism and then that we would be expected to remedy it, okay. Then I would say, yes, we should remedy it and make sure that it's back into the same condition that it was before the vandalism. So that's not something I'm worried about. I think that as soon as we say yes to something like this, we accept the fact that there may be, maintenance moving forward, but to me that falls under the category if it's the right thing to do, philosophically and from the onset, if it's the right thing to do, and we accept anything that may come thereof.
Council Kirkbride?
Thank you, Worship. I agree with Deputy Mayor. And actually, when I read it, looked at it, my brain started spinning and saying, and thinking about how important that area is and how important November 11th is and how many people go down there. And I know I've seen other people down there at different times, just driving by the mall. And I'm not talking about kids, I'm talking about adults, that sort of thing, paying their respects. Sometimes, I love the idea of a bench, sometimes I started thinking like. We should have more than one bench, we should have maybe 4 or 5 benches down there, call it a veteran circle almost. For that day alone or something along those lines, of course, it would have to be done in conjunction with talking to the Legion. And getting their okay and that sort of thing, but. If it's one bench to start with, fantastic. I personally, if it's unfortunately is vandalized, it does happen in our town. But that being said, knock on wood. They can vandalize anything, anytime they want. They can burn down the thing with the bandstand down there. They can vandalize that. If they do that, we have to repair it. This is a bench. I wholeheartedly like to see this bench replaced.
Council Dodd?
Thank you. I support the initiative of a bench. It's what it's constructed of. And I only say that from the gateway benches were bought by individual organizations and people. And they're now at a point that some of them need to be removed from there because they're really bad. There's at least 4. And I know that those benches were done specially for there and they're made out of logs. And of course, that's going to deteriorate. And they were $500 each. So if we're going to put something down around the cenotaph, besides the benches that we already have at the Memorial Gardens, that I don't know how much that gets used. There's benches there and the gardens there. I drive by it all the time. And to be honest, tongue in cheek, I don't know if it's used that much, but I think maybe by the cenotaph it would be. I just like to see it of a material that would last longer than the wood slats.
Mock-ups, a good idea.
Council Kirk?
Hey, Richard. After working as a student in the city of Fredericton in Parks and Trees for several years, wooden benches, wooden slats on steel benches do last. If they're in an area that is high visibility. Ash is the common wood to use. If it's stained, removed, sanded often, it's pretty good. It's relatively cheap to replace. It's more comfortable than steel to sit on. Let me tell you, on November 11th, you do not want to be sitting on a steel bench.
Trust me.
You also do not want to be sitting on a concrete bench. The cost of replacing the slats every 5 to 6 years, if it's vandalized, like you said, but I used to remove those in the winter and sand them and revarnish them. Not a massive job, it's not a massive cost, but it goes a long ways to put the beautiful downtown Fredericton benches ahead. And it lasted years, we replaced them every once in a while. So, anyway, but I would be, I don't wanna say I'm less concerned about the construction of it because that is important. But it also has to have a comfort level as well. Nobody's going to want to sit on an icy cold steel bench in November. So we do also have to consider the practicality of what it is. But again, I would like to see a mock-up before I would stand anything. I love the idea. I don't have enough details here to, to say it right now. Like I absolutely love it, but I think it's a fantastic idea and yeah.
So, council, do we have a warm and fuzzy on this?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you, your worship.
All right, thank you, Jackie. Now I'll need a mover for the adjournment. Council Kirkbride, seconded by Deputy Mayor Mawhinney. Questions? All in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. Deputy Mayor has to leave.